You join us tonight, as always, live, as police from right across the nation are linking together in a determined and unprecedented operation to find the murderers of 17 children. Behind me, detectives and BBC researchers are waiting for your call, 01811 8055. Do stay with us and see if you can help.
Later in the programme, we'll be going live to the incident room in Edinburgh, where police will announce new evidence on the deaths of 11-year-old Susan Maxwell and 5-year-old Caroline Hogg. First, though, the latest news on progress since last month's Crimewatch.
We showed you last month a reconstruction of a murder at a supermarket in Putney in South London. On February the 10th, Steve Whitnell, the manager, was shot in the back at point-blank range as he was locking up for the night. The programme prompted over 200 calls with information, and one anonymous caller supplied police with specific details, including a name and address. Now, that confirmed an existing line of inquiry. 2 days later, a 24-year-old man from Notting Hill in London was arrested. He's been charged with murder, and since then, police have made 2 further arrests. All 3 will appear in court in May.
Next, the case of Avril Dunn, who was murdered last September after spending the evening at her local pub. Luton police have had to increase the number of detectives working on the case so they can follow up new information from over 100 calls, but no definite leads yet.
As for last month's Aladdin's Cave, well, as a result of your calls, police have so far traced the owners of £24,000 worth of stolen property. For example, this emerald and diamond pin was recognised by a viewer in Exeter, who also claimed a ring and these 2 enamel boxes. And someone in London claimed an Edwardian link chain she said was stolen from her 2 years ago.
Our first case tonight is an extraordinary double murder in South Wales. Just before Christmas, a wealthy farmer, Richard Thomas, and his sister Helen, both in their 50s, were found dead in their blazing house near Milford Haven. Viewers in Wales will probably remember the first reports in the news.
Radio Wales News at 7 o'clock with Delaney Roberts on Monday, December the 23rd. Police are investigating a mystery fire at a lonely country mansion in West Wales.
Dyfed-Powys Police have set up an incident room nearby as part of their investigations into the fire and the deaths of 58-year-old Richard James Thomas and his 52-year-old sister Helen.
Originally, police suspected it was a case of murder and suicide, but after sifting through the rubble, they've changed their minds and believe an outsider is responsible.
Four months later, the ruin of Scoveston Park has given police few clues to go on. Whoever set fire to the house had a clear motive to destroy the evidence of a double murder. The precise motive for the murder, however, is still a mystery which only the lives of the victims might possibly explain. Richard and his sister Helen were both very shy and secretive people. They had few friends, although they were well known and well liked locally. Richard was a familiar figure at the local markets. He was known as a shrewd buyer and seller of cattle and was well respected in farming circles. His sister Helen had spent much of her life caring for her ageing mother. Devoutly religious, she used to translate books into Braille. Scoveston Park had been the family home since the 20s. Helen and Richard were brought up there. Richard's ambition had been to be a scientist, but when his father died, he felt obliged to go into farming. Although between them they owned over 600 acres of land and 5 farms, Richard was almost miserly about spending money, and the estate was run down and badly in need of repair. Even his car was on the point of collapse. But there was another side to Richard which has emerged since his death. Police now know he frequently visited the local Palace cinema in Haverfordwest, particularly when late-night X-rated films were being shown.
2 tickets, please.
£2, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
£1, please.
£1, please.
We also know that on the last 2 occasions, Richard met a fat, bearded man and sat with him throughout the film. No one knows who that man was. It's the morning of the last Sunday before Christmas. 2 loggers were working in the grounds of Scoveston Park. Richard spoke to them at about 9:30.
David, I'm a bit worried about an elm that's dead. I wonder if you could have a look at it.
While Richard worked on the farm, Helen was at church in Stainton, a mile away. She always went to morning service, and friends say she seemed her usual self that day. Richard and Helen always had their lunch at exactly 12:30.
More gravy?
Okay.
At 1:30, the last definite sighting of Richard. He was seen on the Sentry Cross roundabout, heading in the direction of Nayland. What happened next is not known, but witness statements and forensic evidence provide a theory. A resident of Honeyborough Green in Nayland remembers a number of occasions when Richard parked his car outside her house. After a few minutes, a blue Land Rover would arrive to pick up Richard. Police believe the driver was probably Richard's lover. We don't know this happened on that day, but forensic evidence has revealed that Richard did have sex with another man that afternoon. The witness recalls they'd usually be gone a couple of hours. The last sighting of Helen Thomas was at 3:30 as she was leaving one of her farms. As far as we know, she drove straight home, and she would have arrived at around 3:45. Exactly what went on inside Scoveston Park that afternoon and evening isn't known, but several cars and people were seen outside near the path leading to the house. At 4:15, a yellow car similar to a Chevette was parked across the entrance to Scoveston Park, and the driver appeared to be leaning out of the passenger door. On the same stretch of road, a blue Cortina and a blue Land Rover was seen at 4:30 and again at 7:10. And at 5:30, a bearded man was seen staring intently at Scoveston. At 9 o'clock, Helen took a call from one of their tenants.
5642, hello.
Hello, Helen. David, Scoveston Grove here.
Oh, hello, David. What can I do for you?
Is Richard in?
No, I'm afraid he's out just now, but I don't think he'll be very long.
To the caller, Helen sounded quite normal, but it was the last known contact with either of the Thomases. Within an hour, Helen was dead. She was shot, probably in her bedroom, and it was in that room at about 10 o'clock that the fire was started. At 10:10, Andrew Main, a gas engineer, was driving home about a mile from Scoveston. As he drove, a Land Rover came towards him at speed and on the wrong side of the road. He tried to get the number, but it was too dark. The fire brigade were called at 11:29. They arrived within minutes. The body was Richard Thomas. He died of shotgun wounds to the stomach and the head. It took firemen 5 hours to totally extinguish the blaze. Scoveston Park was gutted. Helen's body was discovered the following morning. Well, Chief Superintendent David Davis is in charge of the case. What theories are you working on, and what is your most urgent appeal?
Well, at this stage of the inquiry, the most urgent appeal, without doubt, is we know that Mr. Thomas had sexual connection with another person during the course of the afternoon. And of course, we know that Mr. Thomas was last seen alive at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon, so the events of the afternoon are very important indeed. I'm making a very serious and a very sincere appeal to this person who had this sexual connection to come forward to see us. It doesn't matter what walk of life he might belong to or whatever, but we are very anxious to see him. And of course, in the same vein, if anybody else in the area knows of any of Mr. Thomas's homosexual friends or whatever.
Just to eliminate them from their inquiries.
That's right, yes.
Could we have your description of the fat bearded man who was seen with Mr. Thomas in the cinema in Haverfordwest?
Yes, the fat bearded man, of course, as we saw earlier on, we are told he's a man of about 20 stone in weight, a very large man, very fat legs, and apparently walking with his feet inclined to be turning out. So he shouldn't be too difficult to really find.
Now, if we can just look at the area on our micromap there, there's Sentry Cross roundabout there, where Richard was last seen heading towards Neyland. There's the Land Rover, which was seen on the Sunday evening about 10 o'clock, driving at speed on the wrong side of the road. And there was the entrance to Scoveston Park, where there were several cars and people seen that night, none of whom have come forward yet, have they?
That's right. No, they have not come forward. We're very interested in having a word with these people, the driver of the Land Rover, the Ford Cortina motor car, and of course, in addition, and of course the yellow car that was parked at the entrance to Scoveston Park, and a man with a beard, equally important to see and interview. And in addition, of course, there were two people between 6 and 7 o'clock seen walking between Sentry Cross roundabout and the village of Stainton, walking in that direction. And of course, they are equally important to be interviewed by us as well, because their contribution to the inquiry could be of some value. There was a man with a dog seen about 9 o'clock that evening.
That was quite a crucial time, wasn't it?
Indeed, very important time, because we know, as we saw on the film, that Miss Thomas spoke to Mr. Nicholas at 9 o'clock, and of course the fire was ablaze, the house was ablaze at 10 o'clock at night. This gentleman walking with a staghound, he might have been a poacher, but we're not too interested in people poaching at this stage of the game. We'd like to see him, and we are asking him to come and see us.
Again, in absolute confidence.
Absolutely.
Do you think anybody else could have seen Richard driving his old Red Rover sometime after 1:30, after the sighting on the red Sentry Cross roundabout?
Well, indeed. I'm very happy with the sighting at 1:30. He was driving along the road at that time, but indeed there are many gaps, a complete gap in his case, of course, after that time. And we are asking for sightings. If anyone has seen that car at any place, anywhere during the course of the afternoon, and indeed above that as well, if they've remember seeing the car anywhere else, even before that day, we're equally anxious to speak to them. Right,
Mr. Davis, thank you very much indeed. There is incidentally a very large reward for any information that could lead to some information that can help the police. It's £25,000. Now, if anything has jogged your memory and all that, remember it was the Sunday just 3 days before Christmas. Please do ring us here in the studio. The number, as always, 01811 8055, or direct to police in Haverfordwest. That's 0437 3355. 0437, the code for Haverfordwest, 3355.
Now to this month's incident desk. Police need information on a murder in East London, a rape in Essex, and the theft of a rare and historic diamond in the West Country. Here are Superintendent David Hatcher and Constable Helen Phelps.
First on incident desk, a rape in Basildon in Essex. It happened at lunchtime on Wednesday, March the 19th, at a house on the A13 in Thundersley. A woman was attacked with a hammer and raped in her home. She helped us produce this video fit. He's about 20, very slim, and with dark hair and a thin moustache. We've also put together quite a detailed profile of the man. The shoes were size 9 with white rubber soles, the jeans were very tight, and the black bomber jacket was slightly faded. He'll be missing this red check scarf now because it was left behind after the attack. He also left a copy of the Daily Star behind, and a packet of tobacco was found nearby, so he may roll his own. And 2 final clues. He stole a Dunhill cigarette lighter, still in its case. And at one point, he said he was on the run. So if you recognise a face, or if you've the slightest suspicion about anyone who matches our profile, please ring.
Next on Incident Desk, the murder of an 82-year-old pensioner, Frederick Edwards. He lived in a council flat at 52 Devonport Street in Stepney, East London. On Sunday the 16th of February, Mr Edwards spent a quiet day at home chatting to his granddaughter who'd brought him lunch. She left him in good spirits at about 3 o'clock. But we believe that Mr Edwards had a visitor between 5:45 and 6:30. She was between 35 and 40 with straight brown hair cut in a bob. She may have been the last person who spoke to Frederick Edwards, and we'd like her, or anyone who knows who she is, to ring us tonight. Mr Edwards was found battered to death in the flat next morning. And have you seen a blue safe deposit box like this? Mr Edwards kept his savings in a similar one which was taken from his flat. It had £2,000 in it. If you found one, or if you think you know who called on Mr Edwards that afternoon, remember, it was Sunday the 16th of February, please ring us.
Next on Incident Desk, a robbery from a classic English country house. Orchard Wyndham in Willington, Somerset, has been the Wyndham family home for 5 centuries. On the night of April the 10th, Dr. Catherine Wyndham was alone in the house, and unusually, there were no guards. At about 2 a.m, 5 or 6 men broke in. They stole £60,000 worth of silver and jewellery and left Dr. Wyndham to escape from her bedroom window. She wasn't hurt, but is desperate to get the family's historic collection back.
This William IV entree dish, of which 3 have been stolen, depicts the Wyndham crest on the handle, which is detachable, and the Wyndham coat of arms on the front. This George III circular salver also depicts the Wyndham coat of arms. This is a 17th century clock with a false pendulum in which was set a rose-cut diamond with large facets, 1/2 inch by 3/8, and they stole the diamond.
There's the diamond, a beautiful oval, rose-cut. If any dealer has been offered that, or the silver, and remember, that's marked with either the crest or the coat of arms, then please ring us. And take a look at this green Ford Taunus. It was probably used by the gang, but although we've got the car and the registration number, we still don't know who it belongs to now. It's an unusual number, starting with a Q, so if you know where it came from, please ring us.
Police in London are looking for this man. He's made 2 frightening raids on the same branch of Barclays in Limehouse, East London. This was the first attack on the 16th of December last year. He held a customer at gunpoint and threatened to shoot her if his demands weren't met. That time he escaped with £1,700, but he was back at the same branch on the 4th of April and left us this startling picture. We want to find him before he uses the gun, so if you know him, please ring us now.
And finally, something for the connoisseur. This cigar box was designed by Stuart Devlin in 1974 to commemorate the centenary of Winston Churchill's birth. The sculpted frieze is gold on silver with scenes from Churchill's life. That's on 3 sides. On the 4th is an extract from the "We shall fight on the beaches" speech. There are only 50 made, and they're now valued at £5,000. One was stolen in a burglary in West London over the Easter weekend. We've borrowed this from another collector. And there's no doubt if one of these turned up in an antique market, or if you were offered one, you'd certainly notice it. Give us a call if you can help with this or any other of tonight's Incident Desk cases.
And if you can provide any possible new lead, no matter how small it may seem, please do ring us on 01 811 8055. That's 01 811 8055.
In the summer of 1982, and then almost exactly a year later, 2 children went missing, both girls, and both were later found dead. Ever since, there's been a huge inquiry. For next Monday, these cases will be a central feature of the recalled conference at Scotland Yard, which is coordinating information on 17 cases, separate cases, of children being abducted and killed. Now, shortly we'll be going live to join Deputy Chief Constable Hector Clark, who's at the incident room in Edinburgh. But first, here in the Crimewatch studio in London is Detective Chief Inspector Stuart Henderson. Mr. Henderson, remind us first of the Susan Maxwell case, will you? You've got a lot of publicity, of course, at the time.
Susan was a lovely, dark-haired 11-year-old who lived with her family at Cornhill-on-Tweed in Northumbria, which is 2 miles south of Coldstream in the border area of the country. Friday, the 30th of July, 1982, was a lovely afternoon, strong sunshine, and Susan decided to play tennis in Coldstream.
Now we've a film of the events of that afternoon.
The afternoon of Friday the 30th of July was warm and sunny, and Susan had arranged to play tennis with a friend in Coldstream. They finished their game at about 4 o'clock, and Susan had 2.5 miles to walk home to Cornhill. Her route took her down the main road, the A697, and then right across the bridge over the River Tweed, which forms the border between Scotland and England. Susan was last seen on this stretch of road, just beyond the bridge, at about 4:10. She was wearing bright yellow shorts and shirt and carrying a tennis racket. Only 5 minutes after that sighting, further down the same stretch of road, another witness recalled seeing a maroon car driving quite slowly towards Cornhill, a 2-door Morris Marina coupe. But now there was no sign of Susan. Back near the Tweed Bridge, about 35 minutes later, was another car that hasn't been traced, a maroon Triumph 2000.
Now, for 4 years you've been trying to find that Triumph 2000 without avail. The other car, the Marina, this is a new appeal.
This is a new appeal. The Marina was seen where Susan went missing from, around the time she disappeared. And this vehicle was driving unusually slowly, and we're very, very keen to trace that vehicle. The driver may be, in fact, a witness. We're desperate to trace that vehicle, or anyone who would know of the driver of that vehicle at that time in that area.
Now, poor Susan was discovered eventually in the English Midlands.
Tragically, she was found in Staffordshire, in a copse, adjacent to the A518, which runs between Uttoxeter and Stafford. That was on the 12th of August.
Now, that's the A518, near a place called Loxley.
Near Loxley, yes.
The various clues, if only we could find them,
yes.
One of which is her tennis racket. She'd gone, as you said, to play tennis.
Yes.
The racket has never been discovered.
Yes. This is a Dunlop Alpha of early 1962 manufacture. Not easily come by nowadays, and obviously we're desperately trying to find its whereabouts now.
Now, this is so rare that Dunlop have had to very kindly make a special replica up for us. Do you really want everyone who's got one of these Dunlop Alpha rackets to ring in? You've got lots of calls.
We're desperately trying to find the racket, and anyone who may have found it may, in fact, be playing with it now. So if anyone has it, please contact us. If anyone knows where a similar item is, please get in touch with us.
We'll give you the numbers shortly. The flask, this is a replica of the one that she was
Identical
carrying.
replica flask, and the same applies. We're still trying to find that which was, in fact, in possession of Susan.
Right. We have a letter here from Crimewatch, at Crimewatch, from someone who's written to us from holiday in Skegness, saying that they did indeed find a tennis racket with some clothes some years back. Is it important, they ask? It is. If you wrote this letter to us, please, please, do contact us tonight. Let's move, if we may now,
yes,
to the case of Caroline Hogg. Another case, of course, which got a great deal of publicity. Remind us of Caroline.
Caroline was a fair-haired 5-year-old child who resided in Portobello on the outskirts of Edinburgh with her family. And again, on Friday, the 8th of July, 1983, another lovely day, Caroline left her home about 7:05 p.m. to play in the immediate area of her home.
Now, this Portobello area, on a Friday evening, a warm Friday evening, a lot of people were there.
Many people we haven't traced, and we're still very keen to find them. We have 2 particular sightings of men seen with girls who may or may not be Caroline. We're still desperately trying to find these men.
Take us through them. First, there's one I know that you've had publicity for before.
Yes, we have done exceptional inquiry into this particular case. This man, the artist's impression you see here, has not been traced. We're still desperately trying to find him. If anyone can tell us of this man, we're very interested.
And a relatively new inquiry.
Yes, there is a sighting in Bath Street, again, of a man with a child. It may be a father and daughter. This we don't know. We're desperately trying to find this gentleman or anyone who may know him. If anyone can describe this man to us or can, in fact, identify him, the main factor being thick lens spectacles, obviously indicating poor eyesight.
OK, now that is a new inquiry, or at least a new appeal. A car that was seen, too, near Coldstream.
Yes, about 9:15, 9:30 that same evening, the 8th of July, a witness was in a near collision with a light-coloured motor car, travelling south towards Coldstream.
This car, obviously you need to trace. A driver driving that badly, you might think, is unlikely to call in.
This gentleman has been given proof from the Lord Advocate of immunity to any possible contravention of anything, in which case we would desperately like to find him. We would like the gentleman to come forward if in fact he's watching the programme. We would like anyone who has any knowledge of the person driving that vehicle on that night, at that time, to get in touch with us.
8th of July 1983, the critical dates. Poor Caroline was found again in the English Midlands.
Some 300 miles from the abduction point, Caroline was found in a lay-by adjacent to the A444 in Leicestershire, on the junction, or the junction road between Twycross and Twycross Zoo.
Now, she hadn't lain there all the time since the date of her abduction, so for there's 2 or 3 days she might have been seen with somebody, she might have been...
The suggestions from our inquiries would indicate that she may have been other than there between, say, the 9th and 10th of July.
Right.
So if anyone has any knowledge of that or sightings, we're obviously interested.
Her clothes have never been recovered. These are replicas. Just quickly explain them to us, can you?
This is the party dress of a 5-year-old child, as you see here. She was wearing that evening when abducted. We have not recovered it. It may be lying in a field, someone may have seen it and left it. It may be, in fact, in someone's house. The person that took it may, in fact, still have it. We're desperately trying to find it.
And the shoes similarly?
The shoes apply in the like case. We have not recovered them. We're still looking for them. If anyone has any knowledge, we wish to trace them.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's now go live to Edinburgh, to the incident room, and to the man who's in overall charge of this inquiry. He's the Deputy Chief Constable Hector Clark. Mr. Clark, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Firstly, tell us what special appeal you're now trying to make tonight.
Well, for 4 years now, we've carried out an intensive inquiry, and we have to admit that we're no nearer to finding out who killed or who abducted these 2 children. Really, what we do now seek is information from members of the public. Mr. Henderson has already given you some indication of that, but I would like any member of the public who has a suspicion about any person to let us know at once, whether or not they have access to one of the cars that your programme has featured, or whether or not they fit the artist's impression that were also shown in the programme.
Now, you've revealed quite a lot of new information tonight on these 2 cases. How convinced are you that these 2 cases are likely to be linked?
Well, we've always said that there were similarities, but there are also differences. I suppose there's a fair chance that they are linked, but for investigative processes, we've treated them jointly yet separately. We've always made sure that we've managed to retain our separate identity in each case.
Now, I know, Mr. Clark, that somebody has written to you directly at Edinburgh, someone you're desperate to get in contact with again.
Yes, we've had 2 letters, one in '83 and one in '84, from a lady, obviously the same writer, who was writing in the first instance from Dundee. In the second instance, she said she had moved to North Angus, which is in the area just north of Dundee. She indicated that on the afternoon that Caroline Hogg went missing, she met a man in Dundee. That man was going later that day to Edinburgh and thence to the Midlands. We're desperately anxious to trace Alice, or the writer of these letters. And also, we would like to hear from anyone who thinks they can tell us who Alice is.
Mr. Clark, thank you very much indeed. The number direct to the incident room there in Edinburgh and to Mr. Clark, 031 311 3505. Remember, it's in confidence. 031 if you're outside Edinburgh, 311 3505. Of course, if you want, you can call us here in London to Mr. Henderson on 01 811 8055. 01 811 8055.
Well, of course, the other case everyone will have read about this week, in which police urgently need help with, is the murder of 10-year-old Sarah Harper. Sarah disappeared from Morley, near Leeds, 4 weeks ago. Her body was found on Saturday on a stretch of the River Trent at Wilford, near Nottingham. And in charge of the investigation is Detective Superintendent John Stainthorpe. Do you feel at all that Sarah's death is linked to any of the other cases?
Certainly, there is no evidence to suggest they are linked, although, of course, we are keeping our options open in that direction.
Now, Sarah's route, if we can look at our aerial photograph for a moment, Sarah's route to the corner shop, as we can see from that photograph, was along Brunswick Place there, through that little passageway to the shop in Peel Street there. That's about a 2-minute walk, and the same route coming back. You think, looking at that, that whoever killed her might have Morley connections?
Yes, I do. It's a back street area of the town, and I feel the man may be going there in connection with his work, visiting relatives or friends, and I would ask anyone who has any suspicions about such a person, no matter how tenuous the links with Morley may be, to contact the police.
Now, you've brought in with you clothes very similar to the ones that Sarah was wearing that day. You've not yet found the clothes or the loaf, indeed, that she bought.
That's right. The loaf is very important because this type of bread is not marketed in the area where the body was found. The corduroy skirt and the blue anorak, together with the Clark shoes, are still missing. The only difference between these clothes and the clothes that Sarah was wearing is that those of Sarah's were very well worn. It's important that we find them very quickly.
Well, let's hope somebody can help. You can ring Mr. Stainthorpe here in confidence now on 01 811 8055.
Our last reconstruction this evening is the shooting of a well-known Merseyside businessman. Peter Joannides, a Greek by origin, was shot by armed robbers who got away with £100,000 worth of cash and jewellery. Now, for most of the past month, Mr. Joannides has been on a life support machine and he's still in intensive care. Our reconstruction begins a month ago in Southport. It's Saturday afternoon in the centre of Southport, and Peter calls into PJ Jewellers, which he runs with his son, Jonathan.
Oh, hi, Dad.
Hello, Dad. Any messages for me?
Yeah, a few messages. Most of them are written down on the desk, but the main one is the arcade. They've rung a couple of times, and they want you to get back onto them straight away.
Peter always drives to and from work. He lives in Tudor Road, on a new estate at Ainsdale, on the outskirts of the town. It's now 4:30 p.m.
I'm home, darling.
Peter has 4 children by 2 previous marriages, but for the past 18 months he's lived with Debbie, a young woman he's known for years.
Hi. Do you want some coffee?
Yes, darling, I love it. Up.
10:30 p.m. and a dark blue Ford Capri is seen cruising slowly round the estate.
In the Cannon League, 2 goals by Ian Rush helped Liverpool to a 6-0 win over Oxford United. They're now level on points with Merseyside rivals Everton at the top of the First Division.
What's that noise?
What noise?
Sounds like it's in the kitchen.
It must be the dog.
No, the dog's in here. Did you leave the window open?
Probably that was banging.
Love, I'm going to make a couple more telephone calls.
Why are you joking around like this? Stephanie, come on.
I'm not joking.
Ah, how are the kids? Uh-huh. Well, I think I'll be coming down there tomorrow. Okay, I'll be seeing you tomorrow then.
I'm telling you the truth.
Bye-bye.
We didn't hurt anyone. We weren't hurting anyone. It's just that everything started to go wrong. When we had the accident, I couldn't go back without you knowing. And then she wouldn't let me tell you because she didn't want it to destroy everything between
You're Sabrina.
us. Yes.
Oh, my God. You stood by that grave and you never told me. You never told me that my wife was lying in that coffin. What kind of game was this that you 2 girls were playing?
Peter.
My God!
Fine.
Get at him! Get the girl.
Right, you. Get on the floor and lie down. Face down! Get your hands behind your back.
Peter Joannides had been shot in the stomach. The bullet went through his spleen, then through his back.
Come on. You've got it. Where's the keys to the safe? Where's the keys to the safe?
Downstairs.
Downstairs? Where downstairs? Do you know where the safe is? What bar? What
Yes.
bar? Eh? What
It's
bar?
downstairs, in the office.
Is it alarmed?
Yes.
Do you think you could take me downstairs and show me where it is? Shut your face. Please. Now, where are they? He's okay. Where's the keys to the safe?
Over there.
Which one is it?
Big one.
Oh, this. Don't look at me. Keep your head down. Right. Right. Kneel down on the floor. Get your head on that chair. Don't look at me. Keep your head down. I hope you're not hiding anything. Do you hear me? Hey?
Got Kinsey up with him.
If I answer this, you better behave yourself, all right? Because I'll be listening.
Hello. It's Debbie, yeah. No, Peter's out.
Oh, and Nixon didn't make it. Defender saved it. Right side goes in and it committed a foul.
Who was that? No, it's all right. Here. Is there any more valuables around?
I don't know.
Slag.
What did he say?
Do you want me to repeat what I said?
No, I heard you.
Right. You heard me, mate. We don't go around hurting women, OK? So if you keep on behaving like that, there won't be any more problems. No screaming, OK? Not a peep. Get over there. Lie at the side of that bed. No, tie them together. Put them together. Did you wipe over the safe? Yeah, of course I did. Here. Who's this? Come on, you up. Oh, stay quiet or we'll be back. We'll ring for an ambulance in 20 minutes. You've got a clock.
No.
Oh, well, he's got a watch. It might seem like a long time. It'll soon go. Come on.
As the two men made their escape, Debbie managed to struggle to the hallway and retrieve a phone. Soon after police arrived, this phone call was received. Maybe you can recognize the voice.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, there's been an accident
Yeah, whereabouts?
in Tudor Road.
Tudor
Tudor,
Road, yeah.
number 18. Yes,
Yeah.
back door's open. Bye-bye.
Chief Inspector Albert Kirby, Mr. Joannides nearly died, didn't he?
That is correct, yes.
What's his condition tonight?
Well, his condition for several weeks was critical, and there was grave concern for his health. But now I'm glad to be able to tell you that he's now started to improve.
That must have been very recent.
It was. In fact, it was only really yesterday.
What about Debbie? He must have been terribly shocked.
Well, Debbie had a terrible shock, as you can well imagine, but now, thankfully, she's over that.
Now, that voice, how convinced are you that comes from one of the men who was involved in the robbery?
Well, we're convinced that it's one of the same people. You recall in the reconstruction, the man spoke to her quite softly and assured her that he would contact the ambulance, which in fact he did do so.
Play us that voice again. Will you see if people recognise it?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, there's been an accident
Yeah, whereabouts?
in Tudor Road.
Tudor
Tudor,
Road, yeah.
number 18. Yes, back door's open. Bye-bye.
It's not very heavy scouse, that accent, is it?
No, it isn't. He's very softly spoken, but we feel that somebody who does know that voice may well obviously be able to recognise
You
him.
might get a lot of phone calls tonight. Any other descriptions of the two men?
Not really. The descriptions are quite nondescript. There is one very distinguishing feature, and that is the piercing blue eyes that Debbie said that one of these men had. He had very fine eyebrows, and that his skin looked to be quite tanned around his eyes.
There was a car seen earlier, quite a distinctive car you want to trace. Tell us about that.
That is correct. At about 10:30 that evening, a car was seen at the rear of the house. It may well be that there was a man in this vehicle, and that was a getaway vehicle that was used during the commission of the offence. This vehicle hasn't been traced, so obviously we're very anxious to trace that vehicle.
What about things that were stolen that might be fairly distinctive?
Well, again, unfortunately, due to Peter's condition, we haven't been able to establish completely exactly what was taken from the safe. However, we do know that there was some £8,500 and some items of jewellery.
One set of earrings there, and another set, again, fairly distinctive. People might be surprised the number of underworld people who've helped you with this inquiry. This is a very, very unpopular shooting among criminals in Merseyside.
It is. We've had tremendous assistance from members of the public, but as you say, Nick, in particular, we have had this tremendous response from the underworld, from the type of people who you wouldn't generally expect to contact us with information. And I would appeal to any of these people, if they do have any information at all for us, if they would contact me, I will deal with that information in the same strict confidence that we've dealt with the information that we've received already during the course of this inquiry.
Well, in fact, there's a very big reward. If you think you can help in any way, please do ring. The number here, 01811 8055, or you can call officers in Merseyside. The number there, 051 777 4977. 051 if you're outside Liverpool, 777 4977.
And the lines are open here till midnight if you can help on any of the cases we've shown you this evening. Or you can write to us at Crimewatch UK, BBC Television Centre, London W12 8QT.
I can tell you we've already had remarkable calls on the double murder in Dafford, even perhaps a registration number for that Land Rover the police were anxious to trace. We'll be back after question time to report further on progress. If you can't stay up till then, remember the terrible things that we've talked about tonight are very, very rare. And with your help, as you can see, something's being done right now about it. So please don't have nightmares. Do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.